Thank you, Vijay ji and Pranaya ji, for a beautiful Sanskrit learning session. Radhe Radhe, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. And before starting, I would just like to request all of you to turn on your cameras so that we all can connect better. And also, this will increase your probability to get heard more. So without a further ado, I will just request Nitin ji to take over and start the session.
Thank you, Sandhya. Welcome and welcome to making and congratulations on making your debut today. Look forward to the session and please do listen to Sandhya's request today. Thank you, Vijayji, for the wonderful session. Te Bhagavad Gita Taya Agachanti. I guess, whatever.
Good try.
All right, I'll get there. Okay, I just picked up the last few. So Dhatus is where I stopped at Sanskrit, and that's where I need to pick up again. So thank you for the wonderful session, Vijayji. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you're having a wonderful start to this week and happy Monday to all of you. Today we will pick up on Shloka 4.10. 4.9 is where Lord Krishna explained that his Janma and Karma both are Divya. And prior to that, we spoke about the concept of God's descension itself. Why does God descend, right? He descends and then he has worthy opponents as well. Those opponents are not like people who can get cough cold as well, right? They are like Jai Vijay, Hanuman, Kumbhakaran kind of people. Like, you know, the Ravan used to be, not Hanuman, I said, Ravan Kumbhakaran. Ravan used to tie Navgraha to his throne. Okay, that much power he had. So those kind of people, when they come, they have taken on the role of a villain. That's when God comes. So anyways, we will get started with today's session. Today we will discuss, we'll get into the mechanics of our mind, how it works, and where does Veet, Raag, Bhai, Krodh, all that stuff comes from. That is what we will discuss today in detail, and I look forward to another engaging discussion today. So let's get started with our opening prayers. I'm going to share my screen. Sandhya, is audio video looking all right? So far, so good?
Yes, it's good. Great.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, so we'll get started with our opening prayers then. By the way, the time has changed, so hopefully it was not too much of a trouble getting up a little early. Now we will be doing it 7:30 India time, which hopefully will work better for most. Okay, we'll get started then. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Ishwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening again, everyone. So let's get started with our 4.10. I'm going to recite it and then Sandhya will pick up your names if you get lucky, especially if you have turned your cameras on. So we'll get started. Vitarag Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhavamagataha. All right. Who do we have first today?
Ashutosh ji, just a minute.
Sure.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe Ashutosh ji.
वीतराग भय क्रोधा मन्मयहमापुपाश्रिता बहवो ज्ञान तपसा Bhutamadbhavamagata.
Very nice, Ashutosh ji. Wonderful. All right, we'll pick up a few more hands.
Shyamji.
Radhe Shyamji.
Radhe Radhe. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrita bahavo gana tapsa puta madbhava magata. Radhe Radhe. Sorry, I went off.
No worries. Thank you very much, Shyamji. All right. Who else?
Rupaji.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Sita Ragha Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mam Upasita Bhavo Jnanatapasa Utamad Bhavam Agataha.
Very nice, Rupaji. Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a few more hands.
Sunita ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Sunita ji.
Vitarag bhaya krodha manmaya mamupasita bahavo gnana tapasa puta madbhava magata.
Very nice, Sunita
Radhe
ji.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Samji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Samji.
Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupasita behvo jnana tapsa utamadbhavamagata. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice, Samji. We can pick up a few more hands.
Rahul ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Rahul.
Vitarag bhay krodha manmaya mamupashrita bahavo gyan tapsa puta mat bhavamagata.
Very nice, Rahul. Radhe Radhe. All right, we can take maybe 3 more and then we will get started.
Shruti ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Shruti.
Vitarag bhayo krodha manmaya mamupashrita bahavo jnana tapasputa madbhavam agataha. Sorry.
It's bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagata. So whenever you come across like a matra, you can stretch it just to be in meter. So puta, you can stretch it and like jnana tapasa and then puta madbhavamagata. Very nice.
Agataha.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's pick maybe 2 more and then we'll get started.
Pragi ji.
Radhe
Radhe Pragi ji.
Vitaraag bhaye krodha manmaya mam upashitaha behavo jnana tapsa puta madbhava mangata.
Very nice. Thank you, Pragi ji.
One more or 2, 3?
Okay, we can take 2 more or maybe 3 more. Let's do that really quickly.
Shri Ramya ji.
Shri Ramya ji, please.
Radhe Radhe all.
Radhe Radhe.
Vitaragha bhayakrota manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo gnana tapasa utamadbhavamagata.
Wonderful. Very nice, Shri Ramya ji. Let's take 2 more and then start it.
Yeah, Partha ji. Are you there? Okay, maybe we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, Rajni ji.
Radhe Radhe. Vitaragaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo gnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha.
Wonderful. Very nice. Last one and then we'll get started. We have some content to cover as well.
Kamlesh ji.
Radhe Kamlesh ji.
राधे राधे
Radhe Radhe.
वीतराग भय क्रोधा मन्मय मामुपाश्रिता बहवो ज्ञान तपसा पूता मदभाव मांगता.
Very nice,
राधे
Kamlesh
राधे.
ji. Radhe Radhe. All right, we can get started. So Sandhya, you can raise your hand as well. Okay, don't feel shy as a co-host. All
Sure.
right, so let's get started. Vita means free from raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, and anger. Matmaya, completely absorbed in me, Mam, in me. Upashrita, taking refuge, Bahava, many persons. Jnana of knowledge, Tapasa, by the fire of knowledge. Puta, purified. Matbhava, my divine love. Agata, attained. Short translation for this goes like, being free from attachment, fear, and anger, becoming fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me and thus attained my divine love. All right, we'll get deeper into the shloka today. So before that, what do we have? Oh, Pi. By the way, how many of you know today's Pi Day? Did anybody knows that? If not, then let me introduce a little bit of a Pi Day today. Give me a sec. What am I talking about here? All right. So the pi, if you look at it, today is Pi Day. As you can see, this number, big number, as we would have seen in maths, the key thing here is that regardless of the size of the circle, it is determined that circle is little more than 3 times its width. That means this ratio remains constant. And it will be same for any circle of any size. It's a little bit like, what do you call that? From if I have to map it from a spiritual standpoint, it is a little bit like, what do you call that? Our prarabdha. It remains constant. You just have to deal with it. It doesn't change. It's a bit like height and weight kind of a thing, right? I learned it from Devi ji, our yoga instructor, who told me that height is what we are endowed with, is our prarabdha, and weight is, what we can work on, is more like a kriyama and karma. So that is what it reminded me. This is very interesting, right? Regardless of the size of a circle, this ratio always remains constant, the circle part of it. I thought it's a little bit of interesting trivia I'll bring in. By the way, pi word is used in a lot of context as well, right? If you look at it, there was a movie called The Life of a Pi. Then if you have 4 pies, then it becomes char pi. Anyways, that was a lame joke, but let's continue. All right, so let's get in today's shloka, a bit of a discussion. So in the previous verse, Lord Krishna had explained that those who truly know the divine nature of his birth and pastimes attain him. Now, in order to know divinity, we have to be at a certain level. So it's like we spoke about this concept. It's a little bit like a chicken and egg kind of a situation where you need to be divine in order to understand divinity. But then when you are divine, you're already God realized, right? And how do you go about it? So it's like you keep on working. Basically, God says it's 20% is your effort, 80% is his grace, and then he will make sure that you start understanding or getting the abhas or the experience of divinity, right? That is how this process continues. So you do sadhan bhakti and then it becomes siddha bhakti, and that's when you can actually understand God or start seeing the divinity. That's how it goes. Now he's confirming that in all ages people do become God realized by this means, and that is the key here, is to purify your mind through devotion. Now, Sri Aurobindo, he said that you must keep the temple of your heart clean if you want to install therein the living presence. So it's just like when we want to welcome somebody, a big dignitary, then we have to keep our house clean. And in this case, we want to welcome God. So it has to be, the temple of the heart needs to be really clean in order to experience God, or in order to welcome God. Now, even the Bible says, if you look at it, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. If you see the common theme running in both the cases, so that is how the scripture, if you go deeper into any of the scriptures, the essence of all the scriptures is essentially the same. Love for God is the theme, the purification of heart is a common theme. So these themes keep running as we go deeper and deeper into the spiritual concepts. That is how it goes. Just give me a sec. I think there's some technical problem. I'll have to share it again. Sorry about that. Share my sound as well. All right. I think it's okay. Now, if we look at Ramayana, Ramayana states that Prem Bhagati Jala Binu Raghurai Abhiyantara Mala Kabahu Najai. Basically, what it states is without devotion to God, the dirt of the mind will not be washed away. Even the most ardent propagators of Jnana Yoga, Shankaracharya, he stated, let's see what he says. So he said, and let me directly get into translation, without engaging in devotion to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the mind will not be cleansed. In fact, you might have heard his beautiful composition, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. And that is what he taught his mother as well. So even though he propagated Gyan Yoga, but he's known to be one of the biggest Rasik saints. Rasik saints means who would worship God, even though he propagated the formless aspect of God, because he came immediately after Buddha came. So he built on where Buddha had left and re-established the Vedas. And then the next layer is obviously the form aspect of it, which got established by subsequent Jagat Gurus. But personally, he actually worshipped Lord Krishna in his personal form. In fact, there is a beautiful meditation. I will send you Roop Dhyan meditation that Shankaracharya it's taken from Shankaracharya's composition only, where Lord Krishna is sitting by the side of Yamuna, and that beautiful composition is there. You can simply meditate upon that. So the point here is saying he's also reiterating the same thing, that devotion to the Lord is the key to cleaning the mind. Let's go further. Now let's get into a little bit of a mechanics around our mind. First of all, why do we need to clean our mind? Right? That is a very, very valid question. What is the need to clean our mind? Do we even see a need to clean the mind for whatever reason? So our scriptures say that there is a need. And first, let's understand how the process works of this, the mind, how the impressions they form into our mind, and then how this same process, it keeps on repeating throughout the day, throughout our lifetimes, with everything that happens around us. So we think about something, and then that repetitive thought starts coming in, that this is something which is going to give me happiness. None of us can claim that we think about something which gives us misery. We typically think about something that is likely, or that we think, or that our intellect thinks, or that our mind thinks is going to give us some kind of happiness in some form or manner. Happiness, kick, thrill, whatever you may want to call it. So once we think that, then we start repetitively thinking about it. And we start repetitively thinking about it, then what happens is there's a thought pattern we have started developing in our mind, that this thing will give me happiness, this thing will give me happiness. And what happens because of that is we start developing an attachment to that particular object that we seek happiness in. So these neural networks you see to the object that we have, those that channels start building. Yeah, this thing will give me happiness because of this and this reason. And then we have thought so deeply about that particular thing that those channels have already formed. Before you realize it, those channels have formed. In fact, Swamiji very beautifully explains in his lecture that neurology, they are actually researching on this thing, not researching, I think they've already established this fact of neuroplasticity, where neurons that fire together, they wire together. That means once we get habituated to a certain pattern of thinking, then our mind actually develops those channels, and after a while you don't even have to think. It will start coming to you naturally, very naturally. You don't have to think about it. It's like, all right, the moment you get a stimulus, your mind will already start falling into the trap, not trap, or the pattern of thinking about it, and before you realize it, you've thought about it long and hard already. And that is how our mind works. And that is why, if we are attuned to thinking something, those kind of thought patterns start becoming our mindsets. These channels, as you see in the brain, they are nothing but the mindsets that we end up acquiring. So if you look at some people, they're generally positive in life, and they look at things with optimism, with hope, with positivity. And there are people who are generally dull. They look at everything with skepticism, pessimism, lack of hope, always worrying. Or so why did it happen? Were they born with that? No, it is a repeated thinking pattern that they inculcate either in past lifetime or this lifetime. But the point is that baggage of mindset we have to carry. So that is how these neural networks become. In fact, it reminds me of another thing. I think people who live in Canada might be able to relate to it, the rut part of it. So there is a snow pathway. And once you pick up a snow pathway, basically there is no U-turn after that. You are stuck in that for about 15-20 miles or kilometers, as they say, right? US is probably the one of the few countries which still is not an SI, but you have kilometers. So it is said that when you pick up a rut, especially when you're driving in winters, be careful which rut you are picking up, because once you pick that rut, you are stuck there for a while before you can take a turn. And same thing goes with our thought patterns as well, because those repetitive thoughts become attachment. The same thing happens in schools. You would have seen, right? People fall for the boys, they fall for girl, and the girl falls for guy. How does it happen? That repeated thinking, all right, this is something which is going to give me happiness if this happens. So the same person, if you bring it in front of somebody else, they may not feel anything for that person. But why this one person feels so strongly about that other person? That's because they have repeatedly thought about it, and repetitive thoughts lead to attachment. Now you would say, then what's the problem? I mean, attachment is fine. That is how we are meant to be. There's a problem. We'll see. This whole mechanics is going to unfold now. Now, if we see the attachment part of it, now what happens? The object of attachment, where we have contemplated happiness hard enough, long enough, either we get it. There are only two possibilities, right? Statistically, it's like a head or a tail. Either you get it. If you get it, then does it stop there? No. You get greed around that object. This is how it goes. And if you don't get the object of attachment, then there is an anger. The obstruction leads to anger, frustration. You see, so many things happen, bad things happen, because people, when their object that they desire, that they thought is going to give them happiness, it gets obstructed, then they get upset, and it can get vented in different forms. And on the other side, the greed aspect of it is where you don't stop at that. You need bigger and better. Once your mind gets a kick from something, then even scientifically, it's like, think about it. You got kick from something. For you to replicate the same kick, you need something bigger and better next time. The same thing will not give you the same kick. That is the law of diminishing returns when it comes to material objects. They don't have the ability to give you law of enhancing return, like in case of divine things. It will start diminishing over a period of time. And then what happens is eventually it leads to anger, because if you're not able to replicate the same kick. That is why you see, right, tussles start happening between the relationships, because you're not getting the same kick that you got when you initially started off. And if you don't have spiritual awareness, mindfulness, or you understand these deeper principles, then it's a futile exercise to try to create that artificially. You can do only so much. So either you need variety at that point, or it will translate into frustration and anger in relationship, as we would have seen from experience, right? Our scriptures are telling us this is how it unfolds. Now, it doesn't stop here itself. Let's look at it further. Fear, okay, it is accompanied by fear as well. Greed especially. What is fear? The apprehension that the object of our attachment will be snatched away from us. Now, because we are so attached to it, obviously we want more of it, but then there is an inherent insecurity also that this object, what if it is snatched away from me? And that is what causes us fear. Even if we are, let's say, we are trying to strive for something that we really think will define the success or happiness of our life, why do we have fear? What if I fail? What if I don't get it? What will people think about me, or what will I think about myself? It will define the success or failure of my life. That's another thing which we'll get, which is born because of greed or because of attachment. Either way, it will lead to fear. Either you have a greed for something, you really strive for something, or you have an attachment to something, you really want a particular thing. Could be anything, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be any object. It could be a person. It could be a particular status that you've been looking for. It could be a particular relationship that you're trying to cultivate. Could be anything, because you have portrayed that perfect picture in your mind. If this happened, then it will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. And then that whole Sheikh Chilli dream you have created. And then when that dream starts falling apart, like house of cards, it can happen, right? Life will always not have a perfect plan for us, because that is how it is designed. Then that fear will come, anger will come, all those emotions, negative emotions can actually grip us. Where did it all start from? Attachment. Doesn't end here. Let's look at it a little deeper, because in chapter 2 it has been spoken about. So if you look at it, the root cause of all of this, of mind getting dirty. Now these things are called things which actually make our mind dirty. These emotions are actually making our mind dirty. We will see how. Anger, we can relate to it, right? Anger is dirty because it depletes all of our sanskars. It bewilders our memory. We can create heinous crimes without even realizing it. So anger makes sense. One would say, what is the problem with attachment? It does. Attachment actually does. It's actually dirtying our mind, and there's a reason for that. A very technical concept around that. You might be aware of it, but we will revisit that in our subsequent slides. But then the point here is that is being made here is that for all these veet, raag, bhay, the root cause for that is attachment, and it leads to two more things: raag and dvesh. What is raag and dvesh? Raag, dvesh is the aversion. I don't want it. I want to avoid it. It's going to give me misery. Right? That is the dvesh part of it, where you want to avoid something. We do have people in our life, right? If we have aversion to, or say we don't want to see that person's face, or I don't want this to happen to me, it'll make me really upset. That is called aversion. So dvesh has come in there. And the second is raag, where you hanker. Yes, I need more of it. So that gives birth to hankering. Now, if you look at it, the root for both of these, you can actually map it. Hankering will happen with something that is the object of your attachment, where your contemplated happiness, right, which will basically be greed. You can map it to greed directly. And the aversion part, you can do it for anger, because this is something you want to avoid. Anyway, when somebody impedes the object that you want, there's an anger. So the point here is that they are all interlinked concepts. And in chapter 2.14, we will revisit that shloka, talks about it only. So if you look at it, there is a beautiful pattern that has started emerging in Lord Krishna's teaching. He's actually, I shouldn't say attacking it, but actually addressing it from multiple angles, so that this concept just sticks in our head. So he brought in the concept of raga dvesh, then he talks about equanimity, then he talks about temporary nature of misery and distress and happiness that we experience in this world. And then he gave an analogy of shitoshna, ushna, sukha, dukha, that sukha and dukha are like shitoshna, winter and summer seasons. There's a pattern in all these concepts. It's not like you can see one of these in isolations or in vacuum. They are all interrelated and interlinked. So if somebody gets angry or somebody has an angry temperament, the first question that needs to be asked is, what is the attachment? Where is the attachment? Without attachment, you cannot have anger. Nobody can be angry unless they are strongly attached to something, or they have some kind of a desire which is getting obstructed. So when you get upset, just ask yourself, what is my attachment which is causing this anger? And you'll get an answer. So we need to tackle that systematically. They called it, right, systematic desensitization. We need to first become mindful. See, when we go to a doctor, how do we get fixed? Basically, we get fixed because we are aware what my problem is. And then because we are aware, we are able to articulate it, spell it out. And once we are able to spell it out, the doctor is able to advise, because whatever studies he has done or the case studies he has seen, he's able to map it. All right, if this is a problem, you need to take this. If this is the pain, you need to take anti-inflammatory or anti-allergic or whatever it is. But the first step starts from understanding it. And same thing grows with, this cycle that repeats in our life as well, of greed, anger, rooted in attachment. So we need to go back, trace it back to the root and say, all right, this is the attachment that I need to tackle, which is causing frustration, irritation in me. Some attachment which is getting obstructed. It could be something related to a lifestyle. It could be something related to a definition of perfect life. It could be something related to an expectation from a relationship. It could be something related to some kind of an acquisition you want to make in life. There has to be an attachment for you to have an anger. Same thing goes with greed as well, because humans will never stop. It's like the greed aspect is told as, even if somebody were to get everything that this material universe has to possibly offer, still that person would need more. All the way up to, from Indra, he needs Brahmalok, and all the way up to Brahma, you will still be greedy. You would need more of it. You would still be where you started off with, right? It's equated to that mind, that beautiful humorous story, that there are three plates. Actually, a guy goes for, he said, this is a 50 rupee plate, this is a 100 rupee, and this is a 1,000 rupee plate, and said, what's the difference? So he said, the 1,000 rupee plate is special. The other two plates you can simply eat, one is a better plate than the other, but the 1,000 rupee plate is something, wherever you ask, it will double it. So this guy happily gives 1,000 rupees and takes that plate back home. And he goes to the plate and says, he thinks, let me first recover those $1,000 that I've paid for it. He said, give me 1,000 rupees. So the plate says, why not 2,000? He said, all right, give me 2,000. He said, why not 4,000? He said, okay, give me 4,000. He said, why not 8,000? He said, give me 8,000. So why not 16,000? So then this guy understands his plate is not going to give me anything. So that plate is nothing but human mind. We will never be satisfied. It is needed from a Rajas standpoint to propel, take the world forward. But then it is more driven more by greed, not by need. Mahatma Gandhi had said that it's not the need, but the greed which is the cause of all the human problems. We never get satisfied. We need more, 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 not for the right reasons. If we need more for the right reasons, then it's a different story. But more often than not, it is more greed for satiation or the bhog aspect of it, which starts causing problems. Let's go a little further now. Anything anybody wanted to talk about, or we can come back to that. Now let's go into the mapping with Shloka 2.14 around it. Yes, I can see a couple of hands raised. Just real quick, if somebody wanted to add anything or had any question. This is a very important cycle, by the way. Etch it in your memory whenever you fall trapped to anything, and this repeats throughout our lives. With one thing, we move from one thing to another, but the same cycle keeps on repeating. The greed and anger cycle all starts from a repeated contemplation on something that we think is worthy enough for us, which is going to give us happiness. And those repetitive thoughts, if you trace it further back, they are generated based on the quality of our mind. And the quality of mind, if you trace it further back, is dictated by the kind of knowledge that is being activated there. And the kind of knowledge, if you take it further back, which gets activated in our intellect, is born out of what is it that we have feeded it for most part of our life. So it's all related actually. And this cycle keeps on repeating and repeating and repeating, and we keep falling prey to it in different forms. Eventually, it is binding. Eventually, it really leads to raag and Dwish. And that is what Lord Krishna is telling us to get over that. What is equanimous? Equanimous means you have actually gotten above raag and Dwish aspect of it, because that is all a cooking up of your mind, nothing else, absolutely nothing to do with reality. Yes, somebody had some question. I saw a couple of hand raised. We can take real quick and then we'll continue.
Shri Ramya ji.
Yes.
Radhe. I have two more questions. One is, how do we differentiate between need and greed? Like, we may feel it is need because we are too attached to it. We think that it's a basic right or we deserve it. our mind starts telling that you work so hard, like why not? You just deserve it, something like that. Second, sorry, I'll finish my second question. Second question is it possible that like we get it and we are satisfied with it? Like there are some people who have been satisfied. So is it possible that we are satisfied with it, or did it always lead to greed after getting what we want?
Somebody can answer
case
it. I
or
mean, it's
situation?
like happiness only, Shri Ramya ji. You think I'm not happy, but the other person is happy. Okay. And if you go to the other person and ask, are you happy? That person will say, I'm not happy, but I know somebody who's happy because he has something. You go to that person, he'll say, tell you the same thing. You may think somebody is satisfied, but if you go dig into their secret stash, they are not. Cannot be possible. Just not possible. There will be something that is driving them. Okay. And because we haven't gotten what we are truly craving or seeking, until we get that, we will continue to be greedy, because it's like living on 99, right? When the cricketer, no matter how many runs he has scored, until he completes a century, which is considered a landmark, so it's called living on 99. You don't get that 100th run in material life, and that 100th run will only be gotten when we realize God or start tasting the bliss of God. Otherwise we will continue to live on 99. So there's no question of feeling contentment. Yes, you might be relatively more content than somebody else. That is a good virtue to have. Santosh, like in Navada Bhakti, Ram Bhagwan also told Shabari that Santosh means having a satisfaction with what you have is good. Material things, not spiritually, right? When it comes to charity or acquiring spiritual knowledge or developing love for God, don't be satisfied. But when it comes to your wealth, your food, and your wife or husband, the spouse, be satisfied. But it's very difficult actually, because once you start getting something, you need more of it. This is how we are wired actually, but we can keep practicing contentment. It doesn't and then when it comes to differentiating between need and greed, I think it's a personal thing. It's an introspective exercise we can do. We really need it, or are we trying to pamper or massage our ego to say, I worked hard, I need it, I desire it, I deserve it, kind of a deal? It's a very subjective question for sure.
Lakshmi Prasanna ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe
Yeah,
Radhe.
my first question is the same. What's the difference between need and greed? Yeah, I got that answer. But then my next question is it always an anger has a root cause, which is attachment?
Yes.
Always?
Yes. If son is there, mother has to be there. Always. What does scriptures say? What does scriptures say? It is universal truth. Okay. There cannot be any anger without any attachment. You do an introspection and there has to be an attachment.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Yeah. Reason for you to believe that you get angry without any attachment, or somebody else does? Okay. Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, sometimes I question my husband. So why he gets so angry every time without any cause?
There has to be, there is a desire.
Okay.
Desire might be to control somebody. Desire might be to, there has to be desire, and there has to be an attachment around something. Without that, anger will not come. Otherwise, if you have risen above that, there's no question of anger at all. And it's a very important topic actually. See, it is, our scriptures tell us how your mind works. You will not be able to know your mind otherwise. We go in autopilot without even understanding. Our scriptures telling us this is how your mind works. First, understand yourself, how this cycle.
Okay.
So when I heard it from Swamiji for the first time, I really thought about it. This is exactly our life unfolds. From point to point, I start contemplating this thing. It could be anything. It could be as simple as watching a movie. It could be as simple as reading a book. It could be as simple as maybe a position at job. Could be anything. It just starts with that cycle. I need it because that will make me happy. And you didn't start thinking it so much that now your happiness is linked to that object, right? So it has become an attachment. And once the attachment is become, there are only two outcomes. You cannot be in a suspended state. It will get fulfilled or it will not get fulfilled. If it gets fulfilled, there will be a temporary phase where you feel something has happened, but then again that dissatisfaction will come. And that is why this capitalist model is all based around that, right? If you look at it, does anybody stop? Did Walmart or any of the big companies, did they stop because they think now it is enough? No, they keep on bigger, better. Every corporate is talking about becoming bigger, better, right? So that is the Rajas Gun, which is taking the world forward, taking the economy forward. But then that greed eventually leads to a downfall as well. So if you look at the theory of economics, finally the capitalism, the greed becomes so much that people said enough of it. And then it starts, disintegrating into socialism and all those things. So this cycle, and then with socialism, what starts happening, everybody gets equitable wealth. And then finally people start getting into their comfort zones. They don't have any incentive to work. Then they become lazy. Humans are humans. On capitalism, they become greedy. In socialism, they become lazy. And then that model also starts getting flipped around. They say, no, by the way, we need to incentivize people, meritocracy and all that stuff. And after a while, greed starts. So this cycle keeps on repeating. If you look at it, communism, capitalism, all these theories of economics, they are all cyclical. Like Chaturyugs, everything is cyclical. And that is why that circle, pi day is today, right? The area of that with this remains constant, no matter how big the circle is. Today, pi day as well. So I thought I will map it to that as well. So, but the point is, this whole thing starts with the thought in your mind. And why would you have a repetitive thought about something? The knowledge that you attach value to, right? Why would you think about happiness in something? Because you value that knowledge. And because you value, it becomes part of your belief system. Some people say getting money or getting a plum job, this is where happiness is. Some people say becoming famous or infamous, whatever reason, is happiness. So that gets mapped to your value system. And where is the value system coming from? Value system is coming from the kind of knowledge that is residing in our intellect. And where is the knowledge coming from? Knowledge is coming from mommy, papa, friends, Google, right? Bollywood. Then our value system, belief system, everything will follow. So it's important that knowledge has to be that foundation of everything, has to be rock solid. And then your value system, belief system, your repetitive thought pattern, your attachments, your greed and your anger would be properly channelized and directed. Otherwise, everything is going to be like haywire, just because the knowledge is not proper and those attachments are just playing tricks with us throughout our lives. So that is how this whole process works. Now, the problem with this is, let's get back to our, we do have time. Do we want to have a little more discussion? This is a deep topic. It's very important to understand this. We can spend a little bit more time on it, but the key thing here is that if we keep on falling to these kind of attachments, what will happen is that, let me pick up the next slide now. It's an important one, and then we can come back to it. So let me share this. So we were here. Now let's get into the other part of it. The 2.14 spoke about this concept, one extreme and the other extreme. So the 2.14 spoke about Yam hina vyathyante purusham purusharshabha sam dukkha sukham dhiram somritvaya kalpate. Lord Krishna said that person who is not affected by happiness and distress remains steady in both, becomes eligible for liberation. So if you look at the pendulum here, spoken about this concept multiple times, but I just love it. It's talking about equanimity, equilibrium here. So when you go to one extreme, people who have a tendency to get very excited. So one way of looking at it is that this person is becoming happy. So when pendulum goes on one extreme, it's actually gaining potential energy to go to the other extreme. But people who are like, have less amplitude, physics, right? They call it amplitude, how far this object goes. They are like steady, and we need to get to that state. So if you become too excited, too happy about something, that means you attach value to that. That means you have gained energy to go to the other extreme as well. The more you are in middle, that doesn't mean you become boring, okay, dull. No, it doesn't mean that. It's just that you see things in perspective. You know that this is also a temporary state, a transient state, and this is also a temporary state. Okay, nothing is going to remain forever. So both are temporary. So it's better to be able to appreciate or be able to see it in perspective, as opposed to riding, free fall in either direction. That is what Lord Krishna is saying. So same concept here. Why would it happen? Because you got your object of attachment that you thought is going to give you a kick. So that will take you to one extreme. If you didn't get it, it will take you to the other extreme. Same concepts are again mapping. They're converging here. Hope you're getting that. So Lord Krishna is saying, what the bigger problem, now we have spoken about the symptoms. Now let's understand what happens when this thing actually manifests. So when we go further away from equilibrium, the problem that is going to happen is we are actually succumbing to our lower nature. Now, I'll put a pause here because it will become too much for today. Otherwise, we are actually catering to our lower nature. Anybody has any question? Why am I calling it a lower nature, or why this is something which is construed as a lower nature? Before I proceed further, or maybe a little bit of a discussion, because these are deeper concepts. I would give you time to digest it and have a bit of a discussion before I move further on it. Anybody has any questions?
I think there were hands raised earlier whom
Sure.
we haven't attended to. Should we pick them
Let's
up?
take a few. I think, yeah, I will not rush on it because it will take a few more. It's a very important concept. So let's understand our mind. Next time when we start feeling irritated, let's question it. Why am I getting irritated? Let's give it a pause and think about the root cause of it. It's like start reading yourself, and we have the ability to read ourselves. This is called Sakshi Bhav. It is the tool in Gyan Marg, but in Bhakti Marg, it is one of the many tools. So Sakshi Bhav itself will address 50% of your problems. So you don't have to do anything. The day you become an observer, you start reading your mind, 50% of your problems will start vanishing. That is how powerful it is, because we are not observing it, we are simply participating with it. So just take a pause, like Swamiji explained, right, in a beautiful way, that there is a stimuli and then there is a reaction. So there is a synapsis. Synapsis means it's like bind it together, but just introduce a little bit of gap, even if it's a few nanoseconds. When you give some space, then divinity can act and a lot of wonderful things can happen. Don't feel obliged to, like a sneeze, I have to become angry now, or I have to become irritated. Just give it a pause. Am I making a big deal out of it, or what's happening to my mind now? You'll start feeling that irritation, that thing. Typically you will go from green to yellow to red. So if you become mindful, you will be able to acknowledge your yellow state, amber state. Hey, something has started happening. Now the buildup is happening. It's just hammer trying to find a nail after a while. So just think about it that way. And then a lot of wonderful things can start happening. So the key thing is to understand what is causing, grief to me, irritation to me, or am I falling to the trap of greed again? I have gotten what I had aspired for. Am I now taking it a little too far in my head, which is causing me discontent, even though I should feel good about it? So these kind of things, when we start introspecting with our Sakshi Bhav, can start simplifying our lives. Okay, let's hear from a few participants. Please fill out the feedback tracker and then we'll make a few announcements. But yes, let's take a few questions as well.
Padma ji.
Radhe, Radhe. Radhe. It's not a question, but I just want to build just a few things. Lot can be said, but I just wrote like few things and rest I'll put it in the portal. First, we have to understand how is that we are trained. What is that, how we are trained. So even to go further, understand how we are trained. A simple example that I would give, and it's a very common thing. We use this word as unconditional love. And for us, it's amusing and a very beautiful thing when we say about that word unconditional love. Oh, my mother loves me so unconditionally. And we take a lot of pride in that. Like, my mother loves me very unconditionally. And even if a boy becomes a man and the man becomes a married man and the married man becomes an old man, he still takes a lot of pride in my mother loves me unconditionally. But when you put the perspective to it, it's the attachment, the deeper attachment. And sometimes, many times, that attachment, as long as it's that attachment, first of all, from the spiritual angle, we don't want attachment. But from materialistically also, when we try to think about it, if the purpose is not to grow each other in that relationship, grow spiritually, whether it's mother to son and the husband to wife or the mother to the son, if that purpose is not spiritually put in, you can have as much love as you want, but if you both are not growing in that relationship spiritually, that is in itself an attachment. And if you're in the spiritual path, it would not be very difficult to accept this. Oh, now I see it. Now my eyes are open. What does unconditional love means? Unconditional love truly means that you're allowing the other person to actually grow spiritually. And if that is not happening, then the rewiring has to be changed. And that is like a misconception and the errors that we make because that's how we have been conditioned in our mind. Unconditional love means my mother always, and we many times we see this in the society also. And I'm giving practical things. Maybe for somebody this might be very harsh. And we tend to compare. You're not like my mother, and then you're not like my wife, right? When you do this comparison, you're comparing two individual, completely different entities. Each one has their love, the way that they express. So when you do those comparisons, that is attachment. You're comparing one person with the attachment that you have with the other person. That is a very strong, powerful thing that we can process in our mind. Say, yeah, am I doing that, right? So that helps you. And then the need and the greed part, I think Ramya ji asked. I'm nowhere, like I'm no stuff, but I have to dig into myself and say, I have to read my own mind and say, is it need or is it greed? Is it need or is it greed? And I came back with my own solution, and that I would share. Need is I'm doing it for a spiritual purpose, and I need to do this. In that moment, I have to eat. In that moment, I have to do an action towards the purpose, action which is driven for the purpose. And if the purpose is spiritual, that is a need. If the action is not driven for the purpose, and if the purpose is not spiritual, then I declared myself as I'm being very greedy. That is something that I want in that. And that I put it in my mind. If I'm not, my actions is not driven by some purpose. And what is the purpose? That purpose have to be spiritual. If it's not spiritual, then I know I'm being greedy. Whatever the tiny thing, then I say, God, give me that courage that I don't want to be greedy, make me needy. And then anger.
We can give others chance as well.
Yes.
So great point. I think the purpose has to be spiritual. Without purpose, it just becomes about sense gratification or for self. Great point. I think you can expand on the portal. Let's take a few more hands, because I can see quite a few other people who have raised their hands as well. Great points, but I would really look forward to your blog on that, because I think you have a lot of stuff to add on to that. So wonderful points, Padmaji, like always. Let's hear from a few more participants.
Premraj-ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Nitinji.
Yeah.
You have been talking about attachment to tangible things. My question is, how about intangible things? For instance, opinion. I'm attached to so-and-so opinion.
True.
See, for instance, I like Narendra Modi. If somebody goes against it and express some, just what I'm citing is just an example, not politics, just an example. If somebody talks about ill of Narendra Modi, or they express an anti-Narendra Modi sentiment, then I get angry.
Yeah.
So that means this anger arises not only from attachment to material things, but also from attachment to intangible things also.
Very true. Very true. Very true. I think it's music to ears for my dad as well. He's also a big fan of Narendra Modi, and I've seen actually. Forget about that. Even with even here in US, I've heard that the families have broken because they came to know the other person has voted for the party that they don't like. By the way, so it can become a very sensitive issue. But yes, you are very right. It can be attached to, and there are a lot of intangible things we get attached to, even fame for that matter, right? Or our prestige or my opinion. So that can happen as well. That's where I think the bringing in the right knowledge and putting things in perspective is important. People are entitled to their opinion. That doesn't make them good or bad. I mean, again, it's very subjective. But yes, that because you have thought so deeply about it that, this is the guy after so many years, Congress has ruined the country. You have really thought deeply about it, right? And now this guy has come and he's trying to do that, and still people don't do that. So you have given yourself a lot of arsenal in your mind. You have deeply contemplated on this topic. And because of that, your mind has become attached to it. Now it's like, don't question or challenge my value system, because that is, I identify myself with. So it's a deep contemplation on that topic that results in such a big attachment to that thing that anything that comes in the way causes an anger. So we still have to see that thing in perspective for sure, because it can get challenged by anybody, any day. So
even if somebody insults us, we get angry. Maybe it is because of our attachment to our ego.
True.
I am so and so. And if somebody insults her, this being so and so, I'm working as a professor, he has insulted me like this. Things like that happens often in our life. Even that also, I think it is attachment to intangible things also.
Very true. In fact, on the path of spirituality, they say you have to put things in perspective. It doesn't mean you become dumb, but if somebody says that, actually, if you think about it, we are that only. We are actually that. Tulsidas, he's actually telling Ram Bhagwan, Moso kon kutil khal kami. Nobody is kutil khal kami than me, and he's Tulsidas. He has the gumption to say that, and we feel, "Nah, how can you say that to me?" So actually, we should not feel that, and in fact, that is the sign of spiritual progress. When that which that you feel in your heart, somebody says bad to you, that should diminish over time. That doesn't mean you people take you for a ride and all that stuff. You can still hiss, just put a lid to that, but internally, that feeling should go away. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had written very beautifully. This shloka is like something you can etch on the wall. He gave 4 commandments there very nicely. He said, Trinadapi sunichen tarorupi suhishnuna amanena manadena kirtaniya sadahari. 4 things. Trinadapi sunichen means become humbler than a blade of grass. First commandment. Second, tarorupi sahishnuna, more tolerant than a tree, that even if somebody throws a stone, you give fruit only. The third is amanen manaden. So don't desire respect for yourself. Give respect to others. Our principle is just the reverse. We want respect. Others is
Yes.
And the fourth one is Kirtaniya Sadahari, which is most important. Always remember God. So if you do these 4 things in life, you're done deal. It's like the complete path of devotion, right? So practicing and it is said humility is the foundation for devotion. If you're not humble, in fact, God says, what does God eat? Does God eat food? Does he need to eat food? No, he eats 2 things, bhav and pride. Pride is something he eats. So somebody who thinks very highly of themselves will bring them down. And somebody who thinks humble, he'll lift them up. God is called somebody who is great and who can make others great. And who will he choose to make great? People who are humble. So humility is a great virtue to acquire. And it is our attachment to our self-esteem, because we keep on thinking very highly about ourselves, forgetting we are not even a speck of dust in the grand scheme of things. And it's God only who has given us some limited abilities. We should utilize it to the best of our ability for something big. That attachment causes anger. Its ego is nothing but attachment to our selves, kind of a deal. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, that was a good thing, I think. Yeah. Take maybe a couple more.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Rupa ji.
Before we get into that, I wanted to let you know that June 24th to 30th is the place to be in Dallas. We'd love to host you. You don't have to worry about accommodation or anything, especially if you are flying in from wherever you're flying in from. Okay, whichever country, Brahman, you're all welcome. Family camp. So do make it a priority. Do check it out. I think there's an early bird going on right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful time of the year. So do check it out. And then we have a beautiful holy event coming up as well. Do help us spread the word around. It's for a noble cause, charity. We do a fundraiser for all the things that Radha Krishna Temple does. So do check it out as well. And yeah, let's continue our conversation. Then I'll let you do the announcements, Sandhya, if there are some.
Yeah, so Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Rupa ji.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. Nitin ji, I don't know whether these are reasonable things what I'm speaking. I just wanted to see the previous slide, actually.
It is very, very reasonable request. So let me do that.
Actually, when you said see, when we are in this materialistic world, so definitely we are in relations, right? When we are in relations, every human has many relations. Every relation has got its own expectations. Whether you agree it or not, expectations are there in every relation. Even in a mother-son relation also we have expectations.
Yes.
So when expectations are there, so definitely anger takes the first place. When expectations are there, then they are not getting satisfied. Maybe you get irritated, frustrated, or it comes in the form of anger. And you also said that as we think, the channels develop in our mind without our knowing, it will just come in that way. So how to make, already for everyone, till we reach a spiritual point, everyone will travel in the same path. but still maybe I'm not 100% into spirituality. I'm still
all
just
of us
moving
are.
to that.
See, we are all work in progress. It's just because I'm reciting here like a parrot doesn't mean I've understood and done that, right? But I have the advantage of just telling whatever I understand. But yeah, we are all work in progress. It's not something that happens overnight. And yeah, please finish your thought and then I'll continue.
Yeah, so now already the channels are built. So how to make the channels get off in our brain? Other than like, yeah, when you come into spirituality, definitely every channel will be vanished. I know, but how to really control at that moment? And already so many people spoke many points. I truly agree. But when we are still not 100% spiritually, definitely the channels are awake in our mind. So how to make it, or how to break that channels, or
So yeah, it's a good thing. See, how did those channels come at the first place? Repeated thinking. So you did repeated thinking like this, that formed the channel. Now you do repeated thinking like this, that will start breaking the channel. Reverse Chintan. Okay, Swamiji explains it. How did those channels become? Chintan. Now you have to do reverse Chintan. Bring the right knowledge. No, these people are under Maya. We are all, everybody's working for their self-interest, including myself. We have to give them benefit of doubt. End of the day, it's my journey alone. What I will take along with me is only spiritual wealth, right? Does not matter if I pick up an argument with this person. It's not going to change just because I'm saying something. Why should I spoil my mind and my mood and for the rest of the day? So all those things you have to start building. And then obviously you have to start building spiritual resilience as well, which will enable these things with a peace at heart, or start getting better at it. So the way we form the channel, similarly, we simply dismantle it by reverse chintan, bringing the right knowledge. It is detrimental for me if I get upset, right? I cannot earn 50 rupees and spend 500 every day, right? All those things you start, it's like spiritual wealth I'm talking about. So it's only chintan you can break it, and chintan can happen only when you bring in the right knowledge.
and sometimes we know that after we reacted to some situation, we feel like we know it, but still at that moment we cannot control.
It's fun, I know, getting angry at times. It's a lot of kick we get. So it is said that maybe I'll have a session on that one of the days. There's a dopamine kick we get, right? So that kick is very nice actually. When you vent it out, wow, maza aa gaya types, But say, when you can sail over that dopamine kick, the serotonin one, if you can get into that, that is even better. But it is just like when you perform an austerity, and the kick that you get after that is much higher. It's like doing an exercise in gym or doing Zumba dancing or whatever you want to do. And when you sweat it out and you feel, that is a higher kick. So we need to practice. See, we have to tame our mind and make it our friend. Otherwise, what will happen? The same channels you will take and repeat in another life. Then you'll find another person to get that kind of a thing. So this cycle continues. So let's just desensitize it, break it, dismantle it, and that is the whole idea of investing time in spirituality.
I really swear, like when you speak about this topic, you are going to get 100 hands on that day.
No, it's an interesting topic, and we will tackle it from different angles, because let's hear from, I can see new hand.
Thank you. Thank you,
No
everyone.
worries. Thank you, Rupaji. We'll continue. I know it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, so there is new hand as well. So should I take that up right now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Shefali.
Yes, Shifa.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Nitinji, it's like we have to do a lot of self-reflection and reconditioning, as we always want people and situations to be our way, and which is never going to happen. And then we get triggered all the time, like why someone did this, why someone did that. So it's like we have to do a lot of reconditioning of our mind to get out of all these attachments that we are like entangled with.
That is true. It is a lot of hard work, because we are conditioned, right? So we are conditioned and we need to break that. Why do we need to break that? For our own sake. It's a lot of freedom when you can float, right, and not participate in every chatter that is happening around us. It's a freedom. So if you look at eagle, if you look at crows, they will get on everything, whatever garbage comes their way, but eagle soars high. So we have to become a little bit like that, because it's a freedom for our own mind, end of the day. And this freedom is a perpetual freedom across lifetimes, but it's obviously a lot of effort and conditioning and proper knowledge and our intellectual conviction and truly believing it is going to benefit me, not now but later. All those factors have to converge. But trust me, it is going to be liberating. The day you will, first day you will be able to control that anger, right, and sail over it, you will feel really good about yourself. That, all right, I have cut a corner today. I could have done something else, but I somehow resisted it. It will be great, actually. Rupaji is smiling. He said, no, not possible. But I know it's so much fun venting out anger, right? By the way, we'll do that anger management soon enough again. But yeah, it's an important topic. But understand, which is that desire, that secret stash of you or yours, which is getting hampered. And secondly, bring this porcupine story to your mind always. Swamiji gave a very beautiful story. We are always complaining about what people are doing to us, right? And we think, have you ever seen two people talking about, I did a mistake? Very rarely. It's only the third person who has done a mistake. Second person is saying, yeah, you are right. It's always the case, right? Why? Because we always think that, we are right. And so does the other person think. So it's a bit like a porcupine story. When porcupines, they have to sail through a winter, they have to huddle together. And when they huddle together, they get pricked. And they're pricking somebody else as well. So we forget that we are also pricking somebody, and we take the benefit of doubt for ourselves. So in spirituality, we have to flip all the models. In life, we are lenient with ourselves, strict with others. How could that person do that to me? We have to flip it around. We have to be lenient with others and harsh with ourselves. Why did I feel angry or upset or negative thought come to my mind? So the moment we start becoming harsh with ourselves and lenient with others, give them a benefit of doubt. He's a madman, okay, let him be mad, okay, it's not my business. Whoever it is, we have to think, not like mad in that sense. I'm saying it's just like when we go to a hospital, we don't complain, why are you sick? So everybody's struggling. Everybody has their own share of struggles. But when we approach with love and compassion and not for self-seeking, you will actually help them confront their frailties or weaknesses, not call it upon them and make them feel even more bad, because you are not approaching it with love and compassion. That is why those tussles happen. So we have to give benefit of doubt as much as possible and then work on ourselves. That is the biggest thing. We forget working on ourselves and start thinking of fixing the entire world around. So that is where the problem happens. Like Akbar was told, you have an eye disease, you should see only green. So what does he start doing? Start painting everything green. So Birbal says, what are you trying to do here? Just put green glasses. Okay, everything will look green to you. So focus on things which are within our control as opposed to fixing everything around us. Few other hands, real quick, we can take Sandhya if it's not too late for you already.
No, it's fine. And I think, yeah, if everyone can be quick. So Radhe Radhe Kumarji.
Or Sandhya, if you have some announcements, you can make that and we'll continue. We can take few more. I can see quite a few hands. We can quickly cover everybody.
Okay, I'll just quickly make the announcements. So yeah, first of all, please fill in the attendance tracker, provide your feedbacks and comments. They'll be very useful, and Nitinji personally goes through them, I guess. So yeah. And then on Thursday, we have Holika Dahan.
Secret is out. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, on Thursday, we have Holika Dahan event in temple. So whoever is around in Dallas and nearby areas, please do come. There'll be Satyanarayan Katha as well. I'm going to go there. I'm excited about attending it. Then on Saturday, we have the mega charity event, which consists of a lot of things. Colors, festivities, carnival rides, yummy food, and great company of many spiritually inclined people. And then in June, we have the family camp, which as far as I've heard, it's a once in a lifetime experience. So I think everyone should try to gain that, whoever can. And parenting pearl session have started. So I think many of you are already taking benefit of it, and others who are not and can still join, please feel free to do so. That's it. These are the announcements.
Thank you, Sandhya. I see Preetiji's hand raised as well. Preetiji, you're not allowed to raise back your hand. Okay, it's only one way. But let's pick up somebody else in the meantime while.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Kumarji.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Kumarji.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji, and Radhe Radhe everyone. So once again, interesting topic. What is not interesting, right? Everything is interesting about Bhagavad Gita, and everything is done in such a flair with Nitinji as well. Sorry for praising you that much, but anyways, so the first time I met Swamiji, I went to the lecture the first day. It was good because I'm technically inclined, so Swamiji hits the right wavelength, right? For people who are technical, he knows these people are coming. When he comes to the US, he kind of tunes his programs to these people, right? So because he even says that in India he can do more of bhakti kind of a thing, right? Here he has to kind of give some more scientific proof. And the second day when I went, he talked about greed and anger, how greed and anger come from desire, and how desire comes from attachment, and attachment comes from contemplating that we get a happiness from it. And I'm like, what? I didn't know this. All this, my life, I went through greed, jealousy, anger, everything, and trying to kind of tell myself that it's all fine. That's how human being is. And without understanding anything at all, this one suddenly lit a light bulb in my brain. And I'm like, fantastic, this is the answer. So of course, I became a great fan of Swamiji after that. But what I see is, to kind of control this, one, can we remove greed? Can we remove anger? I would say kind of no till you are self-realized. Or when you are self-realized, then you have removed greed and anger from yourself, right? So, but probably what we can do is, as in the path, we can control it. So control,
In fact,
dovetail or this one, say, connect our mind to God, repeatedly every day. And I have seen that happen to me of late. Has some of the things which have happened are really, really magical, and I'm like, wow, people are praising me for something which I don't think I've done great, but just followed Swamiji, the NATO thing, right? Not being attached to outcome. It's so good on the work front. Okay, so there was one question, greed, right? So what happens if I'm, I have greed on something, I'm like something, I get it. Is my greed over? No, it's not. It just comes in different ways. For me, for example, I wanted a engineering seat in one of the best colleges in India, not in anything else. Okay, so I got that. Immediately, my interest was not in getting in another engineering college, right? I got one of the best. So what was my next one? Getting a great job, right, in a great company. Then getting a US visa. Once I got the US visa, I didn't care about visas for other countries, right? So it just changes. It is not the same, right? So we might think, hey, you know what? I did this. I'm happy and my greed is over. No. Once you're successful, you get greed for different things. So that we have to realize.
True. So
and
congratulations, Kumarji, for realizing that you're greedy.
Absolutely. I like now I can say it for sure because I realize that I understand how these teachings have helped me so much, right? Anger, I want to talk about it, right?
Yeah, real quick, Kumarji, we have quite a few people. So
okay, spouses, right? One person has said, my spouse is getting very angry, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, mine does too. But what it is because of his sometimes expectations, too high expectations, which we don't have from other people, right? Not from our neighbors or our kids too, right? So that is one of the problem. I had a story of my friend, but I will, because of time, I'll just let it go. But I'll just say, humorous way I want to finish this is, if you really want unconditional love, get a dog.
That is why people fall in love with pets, because they don't retaliate. Right?
So thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Very true. In fact, Ramadas, he said that when you think you have spiritually arrived, start living with your family. Okay, you'll understand where you are, because they are the ones who will know exactly where your secret stash or your buttons are, and they'll press it. All right, let's quickly move on. And I know we are over time, so we'll probably take another 5 minutes and wrap it up. So let's hear from who have not gotten a chance to speak as yet. I can see.
Radhe Radhe Rahul ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Rahul ji.
Two things. Swamiji has mentioned beautifully in one of the videos that we are not the center of the universe, Shri Krishna. So how can we expect that all our desires will be fulfilled?
True, very true.
We have to understand that sometimes we have to let it go. And then that will only happen by our sadhana and all those things, because we have to contemplate on the correct knowledge and try to build upon that, because then only attachment is okay. The object of attachment is a problem. If it is divine, no problem. Material, then there are big problems. So that is the thing. Radhe Radhe.
Very true. We are not the center of it, and this universe is anyway not designed to serve us. It is to uplift us, basically. So very true. Great points.
Radhe Radhe Preeti ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe Preeti ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Radhe Radhe Sandhya. Nice to see you doing this. Lovely. A great job. So I would just quote from a Nigerian author who I follow a lot. And she says that, I mean, in one of her stories, there is this quote: what if this person dies tomorrow? And I don't see that person next. So I think if we are getting angry, ask ourselves, I mean, it's rude to say that way. I don't want anyone to die, but I mean, it may so happen, right? I mean, I may go to sleep tonight and I may not wake up tomorrow morning. Who knows what, right? So maybe one way, yeah. Radhe Radhe.
Very true. We have to really think about that impermanence of life, including ourselves. That's very, very true. Yeah, we forget that for sure. Right? We will not have time to get angry actually if somebody comes and tell us, hey, you're going to make an exit after a few days. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury to know that. Maharajji says if somebody knew that is going to go, immediately they'll start putting their mind to God because they understand the principle, right? And other people will come and get all the signatures that they need from that person. So, but we don't get that opportunity. Okay, real quick. Quite a few other hands. Let's quickly take those.
Radhe Radhe Seema ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone. I think to Rupa's question, it's very difficult to come up with the correct response when one is in the heat of anger and depending on the intensity of the anger. So what worked for me was the back door, or rather the top door, doing sadhana and building up those spiritual merits. And by doing that, you are automatically finding that gap, that pause, enough to just stop and respond rather than react. And slowly, as you increase your part of punya, your spiritual merits, you will be able to increase that gap and reduce the intensity and not respond so reactively, and thereby decrease your negative sanskars and increase the positive ones and reverse that cycle.
True.
Thank you.
Beautiful point. Very nice, Seema ji. That's true. It's a natural consequence or a byproduct of accruing, or increasing your spiritual quotient. Basically, it'll automatically happen. The same triggers the intensity or the threshold of your triggers would start increasing. It's like first somebody will touch you and you'll become angry. Then somebody has to punch you and then you'll become angry. And somebody then has to, I don't know what, to make you angry. So that will keep on increasing for sure. Threshold will. Real quick, a minute each, and then we can wrap it up. I know it's late. Sandhya, that was, I don't want our co-host very first day having a delayed, session. So let's quickly wrap it up. I know she has other things to do as well. By the way, she's a scientist, so I know she must be doing a lot of stuff. Data scientist or something, right? No PhD.
Biologist, scientist.
Biologist, right? So we don't want to take a lot of her time for sure.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Aarti ji. Aarti ji.
Yes,
Radhe Radhe everyone. Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Your sessions are really great. the way you, the lectures, the way you put things one by one, it clears out everything. Today, I joined late. It is always my mistake, but due to time change also, kindly please, if it could be possible, can you show the slides once, please?
Arti ji, you'll have to come on time. Otherwise, you'll have to repeat the session at the end of the session every day, which will make our co-hosts very jittery. So I'll anyway quickly show you this slide, and while we have Padma talk about it. So basically, attachment leads to anger and greed, and that's something we need to refrain from. Yes, Padmaji, we can take your in the meantime. And then
just 1 second. One thing that I want to say, this insert button that we always use on the keyboard, this is very, very important. What is that we need to insert? Every thought which comes to your mind, insert that spiritual button, spirituality, insert and say, okay, how many thoughts are coming to my mind? What can I just let go? Insert that spirituality, insert. So gradually what happens is this, and then this is to Rupaji's question. That's why I wrote this, right? That insert button is very, very important. You have to work on that insert button. How can I make this spiritual? How can I make the situation spiritual? How can I make my thought process spiritual? How can I make my action spiritual? So when we are first starting, I think we need to give ourselves that grace to say we are broken, and you beg him for that strength and he will give you. And then, but in the meanwhile, what we have to do is this 3-step process, which is replace, repair, and grow. What is replace? Replace that anger with something else beautiful. Maybe you have a child that you want to go and give them a hug, go do that. Whatever that you can do in that moment, give whatever the tools. If you have to count number 10, do that. Think about God, do that. Remind yourself. So first you have to replace, and then you have to repair, and then you have to grow, and then you have to repeat this 3-step process over and over again. I was not a very angry person ever, but there were some things which happened in my life which used to make me really, really angry. But now I look back and say, even those moments that I was really, really angry, I could have reacted a little bit different, even though it was only for a fraction of seconds. So replace, repair, and you grow, and you repeat the same thing.
Wonderful. I think it's a very good tool set that you have given, Padmaji. Beautiful. Are we good then, Sandhya, for our closing prayers?
Yeah, we can. Though there were 2 more hands, but it's.
Sorry about that. I think we were really late, and like I said,
sorry. But yeah, I guess you can fill in the attendance tracker and put in your comments.
Please put in your comments in the attendance tracker.
And even questions if you have any.
If you have any questions, I'll read through that and respond back as well. Okay, so who's going to take charge today? I will do our closing prayers.
So we need volunteers, maybe 5 volunteers, or
whoever wants to take a lead, we can quickly do that. That's fine.
Okay, so whoever has raised hand, I will just unmute them and then.
Sure, let's do that. Om Sarve
Bhavantu Sukhina
Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhave Om Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, Seemaji and Padmaji, for attending my question too.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful participation again today. I've been posting videos. Usually it takes about a week. After that week, I can post it. So if you missed the session, please catch up on the video. You'll be able to see all the discussion. So thank you again, everybody. Thanks, Sandhya. Radhe Radhe, and have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Continue the discussion on this topic. So
thank you. Radhe Radhe. Good night and good day.
Bye.
Bye.